Hey guys, Brian from Snowwalker Bushcraft. It's a kind of a blustery day today, but I'm going to do one of those reviews that I said I was going to. But you know, I'm going to limit my reviews to gear that I've had and that I've used for years instead of the new greatest thing that's out there. I think when guys get hung up on doing reviews, and a lot of these guys are getting paid to do really good reviews, so they're not unbiased. They're very biased because they're not going to get paid for doing a bad review on something. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a piece of gear that I've been using for a very, very long time, basically since its inception, and that's a Leatherman multi-tool. I'm going to show you the tools that I've had over the years and the ones that I've settled on and the ones that I use today. So the first tool that I had was back in 1989, and this was it. And I used it quite a bit in everyday life, on the job, everything that I was doing at the time, and it always came in very handy, and I actually liked the multi-tool. This is the very first Leatherman tool that Leatherman actually came out with for mass production, as far as I know. I believe this was called the PST. It's no longer made. And let's go over some of the features that it had. Well, obviously it had the needle nose pliers and it had a wire cutter that was in there. It does have a straight edge knife here, which was a drop point. It also had a very small flathead screwdriver here. There was another flathead, and then finally a third one. So you had three different sizes of flathead screwdrivers. Over here you had their file, which I believe is included in every single Leatherman tool that is out there. There was a can opener, there was a Phillips head screwdriver, and then there was an awl that they had there. One thing that Leatherman always did from the inception is they also, I don't know if you can see it, but there is a ruler that's on that tool. What I did thereafter is, when I found that this no longer suited my purposes because of the fact that, you know, the first tools didn't have the locking blades and tools. Okay, so it made it kind of hazardous per se using it. So I went to another tool. The next tool that I went to was the Leatherman Blast. Now, they don't make this tool anymore, but let's take a look at the tools that are on this. More and more, when Leatherman came into the market and they were making more tools, they started to think about things. And they started to think about ways to make the tools a little bit more user-friendly. Now, here you'll notice that there is locking mechanisms for all your tools here. And what did the tool actually have? Well, it had the customary pair of pliers, the needle nose, and it did have the wire cutters right here. It also does include the ruler that they had. This one had a can opener, it had a Phillips head, it had a pair of scissors, which actually did come in quite handy, especially when you're doing small tasks where you can use a pair of scissors instead of using a knife blade. It had a file here, both sides, you know, a coarse and a fine. Here it has saw, which was quite an improvement over the first tool that I had. It had a drop point knife. It also had a flathead screwdriver here and another one here as well. Here there was another very small screwdriver that you could use for eyeglasses as well. What's up, Snow Beast? What are you doing? Yeah, he's happy that the colder weather's coming. With that, that tool served me for about 15 years, and I use that tool quite a bit. That tool is not old. I still keep that tool. It's serviceable, and I use it. Wanted something a little bit more. So when I saw that they came out with something that was a little bit better, I went to it, and I got it. Again, all these tools are serviceable tools, and I've never had a problem with them. So from there, what I went to is I graduated to the rebar. And actually the rebar turns out to be my favorite tool. And I usually carry this one constantly, always on my hip, and I'll always have this. Something to note, and again, these are all matters of opinion and your own personal opinion. Moores doesn't like a multi-tool. He doesn't see it. He doesn't like them. I've talked to him about them. It's like a Swiss Army knife to him. It has some application, but not enough for him to actually go out and get one. But anyway, that's Moores. I like multi-tools. That's why I carry one. Let's take a look at the rebar. Now the rebar, just to show you, is just about the same size as the Blast. It's a little bit larger, it has more tools, but what they did is they did lighten up on the material itself, so it's not quite as thick as the Blast was, as you can see here. Looking at what we have on the rebar, we have the customary needle nose pliers. We also have wire cutters. The improvement here is that the carbide cutting surface itself is replaceable if it starts to get dull, so you can get new ones. Again, it has the ruler that's there, locking mechanism for your tools. It has a Phillips head screwdriver, a can opener, it has a saw, and it also has a serrated blade here. Come over here, it has the customary drop point blade, it has a file, it has your flathead screwdriver here, another flathead screwdriver here. Another improvement on the first awl, which was in the first tool that I showed you, the very first tool, is this one also has a hole that in case you need to do a little bit of sewing, you can use that awl to help you sew. All in all, again, this winds up being my favorite tool, and I use this constantly. Okay, let's take a look at the last tool. I believe this is the largest tool that they make. This is the Super Tool 300. They did make a Super Tool. This one is the Super Tool 300. If you notice, all the tools that I have, I got them in the stainless for the very simple reason I didn't like the black, because in case I dropped it or left it someplace without putting it away, and we've all done it, you may not be able to find it, especially if you were working in the dark. So that's why I got all my tools in stainless. Let's take a look at the 300 now. What do you see there, beast? What do you see? Alright, so now we're going to take a look at this 300 here. If you're looking at the 300, now again, of course, our needle nose pliers, replaceable cutting surface for your wire cutters themselves. All the locking mechanisms for the tools, the ruler that is enclosed on the handles, customary trademark. We take a look here, and we have a flathead screwdriver, we have a Phillips head screwdriver, a can opener, our saw, and another serrated blade right here. We move over to here, we have the drop point knife, we have our file, we have a flathead screwdriver here, another flathead here, and then again we have our sewing awl, because it does have the hole in it. If we take a look at the rebar, it's just about the same configuration. This is just a smaller tool than the 300, which is why the rebar I like over the 300 only for a weight issue. That's it. Alright? If I'm walking around and I have a knife and a couple other things on my belt, I like to use the rebar. If I'm not using, you know, a knife and different things, maybe a belt pouch or something of that nature, which is going to create more weight, then I can go right ahead and I can go up to the 300. This is a heavy tool, but again, if you don't want something that heavy on your belt, then by all means, I would suggest that you go with the rebar. And that's just, again, personal preference and personal opinion. Anyway, so I hope you like the review on Leatherman tools. I think they're a really good product, and I'll continue to use them until I find a reason not to like them. But I hope you like the review. This is Brian. This is Snow Beast. Till the next one, walk the woods.